were answered. I think probably the most dramatic moment in the briefing was when they played the 30-second video of Bowe Bergdahl last winter in captivity. It was he looked awful, sounded awful. It was pretty dramatic. And when that video went off, there was a sort of a stunned silence in the room. I think they ought to declassify that video. I think it would be very informative to people to see it. Now, nobody's going to be able to diagnose whether he was sick or malnourished or what it was, but I'll tell you, he wasn't in very good shape. And I think that was an important part. The other question was, why now? Why this deal? It was an hour-and-a-half, 2-hour briefing, and we had a lot of those questions. But the fundamental principle is we bring our soldiers home, period. And that goes back to George Washington.
Were they going to kill him? Not just the malnutrition, but I'm getting reports that people coming to that briefing said they were told last night that he risked being killed if the word got out, even about the deal itself.
That was what we were told. I can't reveal the sources, Chris. That's classified. But I specifically asked after this statement was made, can we make this public? And the answer was yes. He was at risk of being killed if the negotiations had leaked out. I don't think there was any certainty to it, but it was credible, intelligent that this was a possibility.
You know, the polling, we'll be talking to Howard Fineman in a moment, but the polling is showing that people do have a different attitude about this deal based upon what they think of the service record and the status of Bergdahl when he left his post there. My question, most politicians, however, office holders say, no, that's not the issue. And I think you just made that point. The issue is, do we bring back all our guys, whatever kind of service record they have? Is that your position? We bring the guy home, period.
Hey, Chris, one of the things we fight for around the world is the rule of law and due process. This guy's entitled to due process. He hasn't had any hearing yet, and that's what's important. Get him back here, get him well, and then we'll deal with what he did or didn't do, and he'll be dealt with accordingly.
If he was really in danger of dying through malnutrition or in danger of being killed because the word leaked out, where's the argument anymore? I mean, I'm not thrilled with this deal, as everybody knows, but if it comes down to it, you sort of have to suck it up and take it, and you make the best deal you can, like all grown-ups do in life. Well, what's more to be talked about here? What's the dallying about here?
Listen, I'm in an institution here, Chris. It's a lot better second guessing than it is actually doing things. And, there's a lot of second guessing to be done around here. But, I think you have it right. There are questions. Was it a good deal? But, we don't know all the circumstances the president was facing, what the options were, what the counter offer and offers were. This is something, this is a tough decision that the president had to make. And he brought a guy home.
I agree with that. Look, I respect you as a smart, in fact, fair guy, which is a hell of a statement for a politician. Why is this such a pissy partisan thing? Why do we have people all going to the ballot? To me, it's been a difficult issue. I don't find any partisanship in my heart of this. I'm trying to figure the darn thing out. I'm not used to making prisoner swaps. It's not what I do every day. I show up. Why is all the Democrats sort of going along with it quietly, all the Republicans sort of generally going against it? Why is this a partisan issue?
I don't know. I'm so tired of it, Chris. Everything is a partisan issue. I've gotten to the point where if President Obama got up tomorrow morning and walked across the Potomac River, there are people around here who'd say, look, he can't swim. I mean, it's a reflex, and I think it's wearing people out, and it doesn't contribute. My view is, let's get the facts, let's take a deep breath, let's try to find out exactly what happened, and then move from there. There are reasons that we can have differences, but let's not be jumping all over these things and turning everything now, Chris, has turned into a partisan issue, and I think it's a real shame because it cheapens the discourse.
I think if Lindsey Graham saw him walking across the Potomac River, he'd want to bring in an exorcist. He'd say he was possessed by the devil. I mean, I agree with you. It's crazy. Anyway, at a press conference today in real world over in Belgium, in Brussels, President Obama was emphatic that he did the right thing by his lights in securing Sergeant Bergdahl's release. Here's the president doubling down. Let's watch him for a second, please.
Yeah.
We do not leave anybody wearing the American uniform behind. We had a prisoner of war whose health had deteriorated, and we were deeply concerned about, and we saw an opportunity, and we seized it, and I make no apologies for that.
I make no apologies. Where are you in that final line there? Is this a command decision that only one person can make? When it really comes down to it, you can have Tom Donilon and Susan Rice and everybody floating around and all kinds of politicians with attitude. But in the end, doesn't the president have to make the call? And he made it.
he does have to make the call. He made it. We can talk about whether it was a good call or a bad call, but he had to make it. And, Chris, I think a way to think about this is, what if it were reversed and Bowe Bergdahl was found beheaded on the streets of Kabul? The people, you know, a lot of the same people that are complaining now would be saying, why didn't he do more to get this guy back? I mean, you know, this is a very tough decision, and you know, we can talk about it, but the bottom line is, you bring our people back, then you deal with the due process issues, whether or not he was a good soldier, and was it a good deal? Do you have to release those 5 guys? We don't know what other terms he was offered.
Okay, thank you so much, Senator Angus King, independent, who caucuses with Democrats up in Maine. We have some early polling, by the way, on the Bergdahl prisoner swap from the Huffington Post. 35% of Americans say they approve of the deal to free Bowe Bergdahl. 39% disapprove. That's very close, obviously. But when you get further into the details of the deal, the numbers diverge widely. A whopping 82% say the government has a responsibility to rescue a soldier who gets lost and is captured by the enemy. But when asked whether the government has the same responsibility to rescue a soldier who was captured after deserting his post, the numbers are quite different. 50% say the government does not have a responsibility to rescue that soldier. We're joined right now is MSNBC political analyst and Huffington Post editorial director Howard Fineman. Of course, the irony here is, or the paradox is, although the public finds a big distinction what the guy's status was, his motives, was he loyal or not, the public officials you talk to say no. There's a principle at stake here. He was wearing our uniform. We bring him back.
Yeah, and as I read those numbers, the public supports that view, basically. Their default setting is bring everybody
back. Why they had that discrepancy there?
Well, that's because politically, when you get past the basic principle, I think there will continue to be a discussion about the deal itself, about the details of the deal. Another number that we didn't show here, Chris, says that about 1/3 of the American people say they still don't know enough about the deal to make a decision.
But at some point,
initially it's breaking down along partisan lines. Democrats generally support the president. Republicans generally support the critics.
What more information would you want? I mean, people play this game of I don't know enough information to the point of ad nauseum. I don't know enough about climate change. Well, do some reading, damn it. Read the newspaper to start with. You have to read the medical journals or the environmental journals. On this one, what more? If you have a principle, and I'm one of the most difficult people to convince on this, and I'm getting there, if you have to get the guy home, and you're facing his death, and as the senator wisely said, suppose his head had shown up in Kabul, or his headless body, you would have all kinds of reactions. What more do you need to know? They offer this deal, they offer nobody else. You want 3, they want 5. You know, they want 21, they give you 5. But we want to give them 5 less dangerous people. They say, no, we want the most dangerous 5 guys. What do? Do you have any choice? You don't have a choice. If you have, as a principle, you want them out.
Well, I think the president clearly believes, and I think he's got some solid reason to believe so, that by doubling down on the basic principle of we don't leave people on the battlefield, that it's a core American value, he's on very strong ground. The question about whether there will be political consequences later down the road still matter based on details we don't know. You don't know what those 5 Taliban guys are going to do.
If one shows up in the news reports,
you don't know whether the Qataris are going to keep them. You don't know what the whole story is on Bergdahl. So those are subsidiary facts to the basic argument about whether the president's entitled to make that call and whether, as a basic matter of moral justice, he did make the right call. And I think most of the American people would say, yes, he did.
It was a level-headed decision. Anyway, one Republican member of Congress is going after his GOP colleagues for criticizing the deal. This is Raul Labrador. He's a very right-wing guy, of course, but Labrador is from Idaho. And as my old boss used to say, all politics is local, and Bowe Bergdahl is from Idaho. So let's listen to the man who speaks somewhat out of turn here.
Obviously, nobody wants to see these people released, but at the same time, we are winding down the conflict in Afghanistan. And if you look historically, I'm a little bit disturbed by some of the Republicans out there who keep saying that this has never happened before. That is not entirely true. If you look historically at the end of any conflict, you have a swap of prisoners.
So there you have a U.S. congressman defending his district, which includes the Bergdahl family.
Yes, exactly.
And putting the focus, I think that's what he's doing, in all fairness to him, although I disagree with him on a lot of things. There's the congressman saying, look, my interest here is defending the interests of that family. Pure and simple.
Well, Chris, we are built differently from any other country. We're built from the individual out, from the family out, from the localities out. At least we like to think so. Yeah. That's what America stands for. That's what makes us different. And so the president is tapping into that by committing his decision to get this guy out, to honor the individual. Yeah. And that's what Labrador is tapping into. And the fact that he's a conservative Republican, but he's from that town, he's from that area, right next door. The town that they're from is right next door. Just shows you how Americans tend to think.
Well, we'll see.
They tend to eschew, you know, the big sweeping global statements. They don't look at the state first, the interests of the country first. They look at the interest of the individual and the family first. That's how we think in this country.
I think that's the way we think, and I'm not sure most elected politicians know how to think anymore, because they think entirely on partisan lines, except for this fella.
Right.
Thank you. Except for this guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, Howard Feinman. Very wisely stated. Coming up, I wouldn't have thought of it. That's how I know it's wise. By the way, the big story behind the prisoner deal. Was the president planning to release those Afghan prisoners anyway somewhere down the road? Was this just a chance to get something for it? This is the big question to come. Also, she's got the name, the money, the endorsements, of course, the policy chops, everything a candidate needs to be nominated for president. What could stop Hillary Clinton? Well, Time Magazine's Joe Klein predicts the only thing could be Hillary's refusal to show some personal spontaneity on the stump. And go try and figure this one out.